a woman with long curly hair lounged lazily in a nanny van, scrolling through entertainment news. She stumbled upon a trending topic, photos of her entering the same hotel as Honda, the famous actor, and staying all night. Gossip-hungry netizens labeled her a mistress and hurled insults like broken shoes. She dismissed the backlash with disdain, finding it tiresome how every scandal seemed to follow the same pattern. While editing a post on her social media account, she muttered sarcastically, "Can they come up with something new?" Then she casually hit send, attaching a provocative photo along with her words. Her agent, Ling, panicked, worried this would ignite another feud with online trolls. Rushing to intervene, Ling urged her to ignore the baseless rumors and focus on her health. "Go to the hospital for a checkup first," she insisted. Later, Faye, disguised and wary of being recognized, arrived at the hospital as instructed. While Ling handled the paperwork, Faye was told to proceed to the third floor for her consultation. But confusion struck as she approached the doctor's office. Staring at the photo on the wall, she thought, "Didn't Ling book me an appointment with a female doctor? Why do I hear a man's voice?" Curious but unbothered, she pushed the door open. Inside, a man in a white lab coat sat at a desk, reviewing a case file with long, slender fingers. The scene felt almost picturesque. Yet something nagged at Faye. Why did this doctor look so familiar? Without lifting his head, the doctor asked her name. Faye hesitated before responding carefully. The more she observed, the more certain he became. Could this really be Mian, her high school crush? When the doctor finally looked up, there was a moment of stunned silence before he asked what brought Faye here. Faye gestured to her chest and explained, "There's a lump here." As the consultation began, fragments of memory flooded her mind. She'd heard that Mian graduated from Xing University before studying abroad. Could this really be him? She wondered, caught between doubt and recognition. The doctor suddenly stood up and walked over to an instrument, announcing that further examination was needed. "Come and lie down," he instructed. Nervously, Faye sat on the hospital bed, her thoughts racing. Then she heard the doctor say, "Unbutton your shirt." Those words hit her like static on an old black and white TV, her mind buzzing with disbelief. Yet, she followed the instructions, lying down on the bed as told. How is this going to work? She wondered anxiously. Is he going to touch me with those long, pale hands? She immediately scolded herself, embarrassed by the intrusive thought. Why is my mind filled with such nonsense? While her brain spiraled out of control, the doctor remained professional, using the instrument to conduct the examination. After a few minutes, the doctor said casually, "All done," and tossed her some tissues to wipe off the contrast agent. Faye was caught off guard. Why does this feel like being left behind by an irresponsible scumbag, she thought, feeling a mix of frustration and awkwardness. After cleaning herself up, she hesitantly asked, "So, what's the situation? Is there still hope?" The doctor, busy tapping away at the test results, finally looked up and said, "It's a painless nodule, but there are no signs of lesions." A wave of relief washed over Faye, and she thanked the doctor profusely. But before she could leave, the doctor gave her a quick once-over and added, "However, nodules don't appear for no reason. You need to pay more attention to your diet and exercise. Also, your BMI isn't ideal." Faye, who was naturally slender, felt a pang of awkwardness. She nodded stiffly, as if the doctor had just handed her a 5-pound rock to carry. Then the doctor asked, "May I have your last name? And is it convenient to leave a phone number? I'll contact you if there's any issue." Inwardly, Faye panicked. "Please don't recognize me. Please don't recognize me." But just as she was about to respond, the doctor's hand, poised over the diagnosis form, froze. The doctor slowly removed his mask, looked directly at her, and said with an unmistakable familiarity, "Take it easy, Miss Faye. Do you remember who you wrote 120 love letters to in high school?" Faye's eyes widened in shock. Her mind went blank for a moment before it hit her like a ton of bricks. The doctor was really Mian. What was truly mortifying wasn't just that he remembered Faye as a classmate. He also remembered the 120 love letters she had written. Damn it, how humiliating, Faye thought, wishing she could disappear into the ground. As she stood there, frozen in embarrassment, her agent, Ling, returned after completing the formalities. She immediately noticed Faye staring blankly at the wall and asked, "What are you doing over there?" Her tone quickly shifted to suspicion. "Wait, did that doctor do something to you?" Faye didn't even hear her. At that moment, someone else entered the elevator. Trying to distract Ling, Faye laughed nervously. "Oh, how could that happen? That doctor is actually my fan," she added with mock confidence. "And even though he's handsome, he's way too shy. If he really liked me, wouldn't he just say so? Does he need me to teach him how to confess properly?" Ling rolled her eyes as Faye continued her exaggerated boasting. "Actually, he asked for my phone number, but I didn't give it," she said, puffing up her chest. But before Faye could carry on, a low, familiar voice suddenly spoke from behind her. Faye froze. Why does that voice sound so familiar? Slowly, she turned her head. And there, standing in the elevator with her, was Mian. Their eyes met, and for a moment, it felt like time stopped. Faye's heart raced and her knees nearly buckled. Meanwhile, Ling, oblivious to Faye's internal panic, nudged her. Since he's your fan, why didn't you ask for his number? Or even the last few digits? Finally, the elevator reached the first floor. As soon as the doors opened, Faye bolted out like a sprinter in a 100-meter dash. Ling called after her, confused. Why are you in such a hurry? She quickly ran after Faye, but neither of them noticed the small item that fell from Faye's bag as she ran. Mian remained in the elevator, watching Faye's retreating figure until it disappeared from view. As he turned to leave, his gaze fell on something on the ground, a small silver USB stick. He picked it up, his expression unreadable, before heading to his car. Ling eyed Faye suspiciously. What were you running from just now? Anyone would think you were being chased by a ghost. Faye felt a wave of embarrassment but tried to play it off. Wasn't I just worried about missing the plane? Seeing that Faye wasn't in the mood to explain further, Ling dropped the subject. Once things calmed down, Faye pulled out her phone and typed Mian into the search bar. His profile and academic achievements popped up, detailed and impressive. Faye couldn't help but be in awe. Wow, what an outstanding student. Mian had clearly stayed true to the ambitions of his youth, pursuing his dreams with unwavering focus and reaching heights most people couldn't imagine. But a question gnawed at Faye. Wait, isn't he a surgeon? So why was he working in a breast clinic? As Faye's fingers idly scrolled through the screen, a photo of Mian conducting an experiment appeared. Faye paused, caught off guard. I have to admit, his dedication is kind of charming. Before her thoughts could spiral further, Ling's voice broke through. Faye, what are you doing? You're practically drooling. Snapping back to reality, Faye quickly wiped the corners of her mouth, flustered. It's nothing, she mumbled, realizing she'd been caught off guard by her own thoughts. Ling smirked and teased. What were you looking at? You're a grown woman grinning at a screen. How inappropriate. Before Faye could respond, she added, Anyway, instead of daydreaming, why don't you copy the new script from the USB stick onto the computer? That way, you can review it on the plane. Faye rummaged through her bag for the USB stick, but after searching for a while, she came up empty-handed. Where is it? She muttered to herself. Why is the USB stick missing? Ling's expression instantly turned serious. You need to find it. That script is classified information. It can't just go missing. Faye dumped the contents of her bag out and searched frantically, but the USB stick was nowhere to be found. Defeated, she slumped back into her chair and sighed. It's gone. I must have dropped it somewhere when I went out. Hearing this, Ling almost choked in frustration. After a long pause, she exhaled sharply and waved her hand in resignation. Fine, I'll figure something out. For now, you just focus on preparing for the press conference the day after tomorrow. Faye sat silently, mentally retracing her steps from earlier. Then it hit her like a lightning bolt. Could it have fallen out when I hurried out of the elevator? After an overnight flight, Faye drove back to her luxurious Jiangmi Lake villa, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. Exhausted, she stepped inside, and as soon as she closed the door, her phone buzzed. It was an unfamiliar number from Kyoto. She figured it was a wrong number and chose to ignore it. The day had been long and tiring, so she decided to unwind with a hot bath. With a face mask on and the warm water soothing her aches, she finally started to relax. But her peace was interrupted when the phone buzzed twice. Lazily, she glanced at the screen. It was a message from the unknown number. You dropped something. I have it. When is it convenient for you to come and get it? Mian. That name hit her like a thunderclap. Shocked, she sat up so quickly that her face mask nearly peeled off. Scrambling out of the bathtub, she wrapped herself in a towel, took a deep breath, and quickly called the number back. The call connected almost immediately. Holding her breath, Faye stammered, It's me, Faye. The calm voice on the other end replied, I know. Is the item you lost a small silver USB stick? I picked it up in the elevator. When will you come to retrieve it? Pacing nervously in the bathroom, Faye felt a wave of embarrassment. I'm so sorry. I've already returned to G City. Would it be possible for you to share your address? I'll arrange for a courier to pick it up. Or maybe you could mail it? Mian's voice remained steady. It's fine. Send me the delivery address and I'll handle it. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up now. Hearing this, Faye hurriedly replied, Thank you. I'll send you the address immediately. But before she could finish her sentence, her foot suddenly slipped on the wet floor. With a startled scream, she fell heavily to the ground, the phone flying out of her hand. From the phone, Mian's concerned voice called out, What's wrong? Did you fall? Tears of pain welled in Faye's eyes as she gingerly rubbed her bruised elbow. Damn floor, she muttered under her breath. I just got out of the shower, and it hurt so much. Hearing Faye mention that she had just gotten out of the shower, Mian paused for a few seconds before asking, Where did you fall? Do you need me to call an ambulance? Faye picked up the phone from the floor, wincing in pain. No, it's fine, she replied, trying to sound casual. I just fell on my butt. There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. Faye felt her face heat up, wishing she could disappear. Great! So much for creating the image of a graceful and elegant person in front of him. It's all ruined now. After a moment, Mian's deep voice came through again, calm and steady. Don't panic. Try to stand up slowly. See if you can move without any major issues. Following his instructions, Faye gripped the washstand and slowly pulled herself to her feet. Glancing at her reflection in the mirror, she noted that while the pain was still present, it had eased slightly. I'm up, she said, exhaling in relief. It's not a big deal. Thank you for your concern. I'll hang up now. But as she ended the call, a new wave of self-consciousness washed over her. Way to impress him. How am I supposed to wear a gown to tomorrow's movie launch with bruises on my arm? Just then, her phone buzzed with a message from Mian. Apply some medicine to the bruises. I recommend going to the hospital for a checkup tomorrow. If you don't feel well tonight, you can call me anytime. An inexplicable warmth rose in Faye's chest. Is he caring about me? But she quickly dismissed the thought. Don't overthink it. He's a doctor. It's normal for him to be concerned about a patient's condition. Early in the morning, Assistant Yu arrived with a love breakfast in hand, bubbling with excitement. Did you hear the big news? A truck driver got into an accident. His body was pierced by a metal tube. The shocking news jolted Faye awake. What? How's the driver now? Is he okay? Assistant Yu placed the breakfast on the table and shrugged. I don't know yet, but it doesn't look good. As Assistant Yu glanced at Faye's arm, her eyes widened. Boss, what happened to your arm? That looks serious. You need to go to the hospital right away. Faye waved her off dismissively. It's nothing. By the time I get to the hospital, this little scratch will already be healed. Assistant Yu stared at Faye incredulously, 3 metaphorical black lines forming on her forehead. A delicate female star? What kind of star acts like this? Before she could say more, Ling called. The moment Faye answered, her thunderous voice came through. Check Weibo right now! That bastard Han Li! What nonsense is he spouting this time? Faye quickly opened her phone. Sure enough, Han Li had reshared the entertainment news from yesterday's hot search, the one about the hotel encounter, and left a deliberately ambiguous comment. Miss Faye is indeed easy to fall into, but we're just friends. It was just an unexpected encounter. Don't misunderstand. The blood rushed to Faye's head. She gripped her cup tightly, then crushed it in her hand. Fall into your mother, she muttered angrily. Isn't this even more misleading? Never one to hold back, she immediately fired off a response. What have you fallen into? Do I look like a swamp? The reply was blunt and unfiltered, and within moments, it sent Faye straight to the hot search. Netizens, already buzzing with the scandal, flocked to his Weibo page. Many were shocked, asking, what kind of chaos is this quiet star stirring up now? Meanwhile, Faye went full throttle, clashing with haters in the comments. Her sharp, sarcastic comebacks left the audience in awe. Does the boss have superhuman typing speed? Assistant Yu thought, as the comment section turned into a live drama. Faye smirked. I've been online for years. My ability to roast without cursing didn't come out of nowhere, she thought, reveling in her ability to handle the trolls. But just as she was gaining momentum, another piece of news caught her eye. The truck driver was successfully rescued. She paused to read the details. The rescue had taken place at Kyoto First People's Hospital, the same hospital where Mian worked. Seeing the news and realizing it was trending alongside her own gossip, Faye felt a wave of embarrassment. How ridiculous, she thought. Still, she reassured herself, someone as busy as Mian probably wouldn't even notice. At Kyoto First People's Hospital, after 6 grueling hours in the operating room, the surgery was finally a success. Outside, the patient's family thanked the team repeatedly, their gratitude overflowing. Exhausted, Mian leaned against the wall to rest, a faint hint of relief on his face. Just then, the Vice Dean approached with a document, smiling. Great work today. I have something else to inform you. G-City is hosting an international medical summit. 2 of your articles that were published in the journal recently won awards, and the organizers have invited you to give a speech. Go home and pack. You'll need to leave soon. As Mian glanced at the summit's location, which was near G-City, he remembered the USB stick Faye wanted couriered there. He decided to bring it himself. After a long flight, he received a message from a friend. You're trending. His friend added that reporters had even come to the hospital that afternoon to interview the surgical team, but it was a shame the lead surgeon, Mian, wasn't there. Unbothered by such news, Mian casually clicked on the trending topics. To his surprise, he stumbled upon gossip involving Faye and a celebrity named Han Li. The hot search topics were sensationalized, and he couldn't help but pause. Is her personal life always this dramatic? Meanwhile, at a movie launch event in J-City, everything was in full swing. When the lead actress, On Ki, made her appearance, she looked like a sweet and charming princess, dazzling in her own right. But then, a Rolls-Royce pulled up to the venue, immediately drawing everyone's attention. The grand display suggested a VIP of significant stature, perhaps a major star or a prominent director. As the car stopped, the driver stepped out and respectfully opened the door. The crowd held their breath as a glittering silver high heel stepped onto the red carpet. Out came Faye, clad in a custom couture gown paired with exquisite jewelry. Though she played only the third female lead in the movie, her commanding presence and stunning beauty overshadowed everyone. In an instant, even the heroine seemed to fade into the background. Reporters couldn't stop raving about her dazzling entrance, calling it unforgettable. Faye flipped her hair nonchalantly, her confidence soaring. This is what it means to leave everyone amazed. The attention quickly shifted to her as the limelight followed her every move. Despite being the third lead, she effortlessly outshone the lead actress. Faye wore an evening gown so exclusive that even Anchi couldn't dream of affording it. The envy and jealousy in Anchi's eyes were unmistakable. During the interviews, reporters fired pointed questions at Faye, including one about whether she had interfered in Han's marriage. Standing nearby, Anki let out a cold, derisive snort, muttering under her breath, "What a fool! She's dressed so extravagantly just to take the heat off me." Faye could sense the reporter's sly smile, clearly hoping to see her falter. Dream on, she thought, deciding to act nonchalant and play along. "You think my dress looks nice, don't you?" she asked with a smirk. The reporter didn't even blink. "I'm talking about you and Han Li." Faye tilted her head. "So, you're saying my dress doesn't look good?" she quipped, dodging the question entirely. But she knew exactly what the reporter was trying to do, steer the conversation back to the scandal. Off to the side, An-ki, watching gleefully as the scene unfolded, was nearly fuming with anger when Faye managed to outwit the reporter yet again. The press conference eventually came to an end. Faye changed out of her gown and prepared to leave, eager to finally go home. But as she walked down the corridor, she noticed someone leaning casually against the wall. It was none other than Han Li, the actor at the center of the recent rumors. Deciding to ignore him, Faye quickened her pace, hoping to walk past without incident. But Han stepped in front of her, blocking her path. Frowning, Faye asked sharply, "What do you want?" Han leaned against the wall with an arrogant smile. "What's the rush? Are you scared of me?" Faye crossed her arms, unimpressed. "And if I am? What then? Can I go now?" Han stared at Faye with a smug expression. "What if I say no?" he murmured, his tone growing darker. After a tense pause, Faye narrowed her eyes and retorted coldly, "Move, old female dog." Han's expression shifted into something unhinged as he reached out to touch Faye's face. "Miss Faye," he said with a twisted grin, "you're so captivating, even when you're cursing. You know, I could get you the lead role in your next film. All you have to do is spend tonight with me." Before he could finish his sentence, Faye grabbed him by the arm, flipped him over her shoulder, and slammed him to the ground. The impact echoed through the corridor as Han gasped in pain. Standing over him, Faye sneered. "Didn't I make myself clear? Stay out of my way." Han groaned, clutching his side, his face flushed with anger. "I won't let this slide." Faye dusted off her hands and said lightly, "Don't waste my time, best actor. Seems like we don't get along." She turned on her heel and began walking away. But just as she took a few steps, Han's voice rasped from behind. "What are you pretending for? Acting all noble here. Do you think I don't know about your little secret? My friend saw you with his own eyes, walking in and out of a foreign hotel with a 70-year-old man. You'd do anything for money, wouldn't you?" Faye paused briefly, her fists clenching at her sides. "Yeah, he's 70 years old, but he's still my old baby. And you don't even deserve to shine his shoes." Han's face turned green with rage. "Are you saying I'm worse than some old man?" he sputtered, struggling to respond. Before he could say more, Angie appeared, exclaiming, "Han, what happened to you?" Han, still reeling, wasted no time spinning the narrative in his favor. "This woman," he said, pointing at Faye, "tried to seduce me just to get the lead role. I didn't think she'd stoop this low." The surrounding onlookers, all part of An-ki's entourage, gasped in surprise. The drama escalated further as Han continued, wearing an expression of disgust mixed with accusation. "She said she wanted to sleep with me, and when I refused, she tried to take my clothes off. Can you believe it?" Faye felt a surge of frustration and disbelief. "Han Li," she snapped through gritted teeth, "you really are a master actor, aren't you?" Before Faye could say more, Anki chimed in, fanning the flames. "If you want to make it big, you should rely on your talent, not drag Han down." Faye's anger boiled over, and she cut her off. "Are you blind? He's the one harassing me, and you just believe every word he says? Seriously?" The crowd hesitated, mumbling awkwardly. "But Han is a senior actor. He wouldn't lie, would he?" Hearing this, Faye couldn't help but laugh bitterly. "Oh, so just because he's the famous best actor, that makes him incapable of lying? Is that it?" The crowd fell silent, their hesitation palpable. The quiet spoke volumes. It was clear that even if they knew the truth, they would side with Han. After all, he was the top actor, and his influence carried weight. Faye clenched her fists. Fine, she thought. Let them side with him now. But one day, they'll pay for their choices. Just then, a nearby door creaked open, and a tall figure stepped into view. The room froze as everyone turned to look. When Faye saw the man's cold, handsome face, she stiffened immediately. How could it be? She Mian? Mian completely ignoring the lead actress of the movie. Without hesitation, he walked straight to Faye. I tried calling you, but you didn't answer, he said. I had to come find you myself. Faye, still in shock, could barely process the moment. Isn't he supposed to be in Kyoto? Why is he here? Mian's sharp gaze shifted to Han's wrist. His tone was cold and unwavering. You lied, he said. Judging by the marks on your wrist, they were clearly caused by self-defense. Han's face darkened. Angrily, he asked, Who even are you? What nonsense are you spouting? Before Mian could reply, Faye stepped forward, standing protectively in front of him. Watch your mouth, she snapped. He's my boyfriend. The entire room froze in stunned silence. Han looked utterly dumbfounded as if the words had short-circuited his brain. Faye smirked at his reaction. What's wrong? Can't understand human language? She quipped before grabbing Mian's hand, ready to leave. But before they could walk away, Mian's deep voice cut through the tension once more. I'm a doctor, he said calmly. I suggest you get checked at the hospital as soon as possible. While you initiated the harassment, my girlfriend's response might have been excessive. We'll cover the medical expenses. Faye froze. Did he just call me his girlfriend? Her mind was reeling, but Mian didn't linger. Without waiting for a response, he took Faye's hand and led her out of the room. The remaining group stared at Han, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and judgment. Han, unable to back down, snapped, What are you all looking at? That woman seduced me first. But the silence from the others said it all. Everyone in the room knew who was lying. Outside, the two walked hand in hand down a street lined with lush brown and green trees. Faye couldn't help but glance at their clasped hands, her cheeks flushing slightly as an unfamiliar warmth stirred in her chest. After a while, Mian stopped walking. Both of them spoke at the same time, blurting out, before cutting themselves off. You go first, Faye offered, still flustered. Mian hesitated for a moment, then let go of his hand, looking slightly embarrassed. Sorry, he said. Faye felt a sudden, inexplicable emptiness at the loss of contact. No, it's fine, she replied quickly. Actually, I should be thanking you for helping me back there. I don't even know how to repay you. Mian, as usual, was brief with his words. It's fine. It was no trouble. Behind his back, Faye nervously rubbed her hands, her voice dropping to an awkward whisper. I just said you were my boyfriend. Don't be mad about it, okay? I just didn't want that Han guy bothering me anymore. Mian fell silent for a moment before replying simply, I understand. Then, as if remembering something, he pulled a USB stick out of his pocket and handed it over. Faye stared at it in surprise. How did you know I was here? She asked, her tone laced with suspicion. He didn't come all this way just to give me this, did he? Mian explained briefly. There's a medical summit here, so I brought it along. I also contacted your assistant. A sinking feeling crept over Faye. When did you arrive? She asked hesitantly. Mian's gaze shifted toward her, and after a pause, he said, Your 70-year-old baby. Faye's face turned bright red in an instant. Flustered, she stammered, No, you misunderstood. That old man is actually... Before she could finish, Mian cut her off calmly. It doesn't matter. That's your business. No need to explain to me. The firm reply left Faye speechless, every attempt at clarification blocked before it could leave her mouth. Just then, a notification dinged on her phone. Her assistant had sent a message asking where she was. Mian took the hint and said politely, If you're busy, I won't keep you. Before Faye could reply, another message came through. The car broke down. You'll have to take a taxi back on your own. Faye quickly put the phone away, determined not to let the moment slip away. This is my chance. I can't just let him go. She hesitated for only a second before blurting out, Would you like to go to the beach? We could take a walk and enjoy the sea breeze. It wasn't the refreshing sea breeze. It was a dry, chilly land wind, Mian said. Faye's mouth twitched. Do you have to be so literal every time? Faye finally managed to convince the ever-stoic Mian to take a walk on the beach. The cool sea breeze set the scene. Throughout their stroll, Faye couldn't resist sneaking glances at Mian. Mian, she said casually. You're so handsome. At your age, you should be married by now, right? Mian seemed caught off guard and paused for a moment before replying, Not yet. It still feels a bit early for me. Refusing to let the topic drop, Faye pressed on. But after all these years, you've never had a girlfriend. Mian hesitated briefly, then admitted, Well, there was someone once. I met her through a blind date my family arranged, but I was too busy with work. So it didn't go anywhere. Something about his tone made Faye suspect there was more to the story, but she decided not to pry. Instead, she kicked a pebble on the ground and said, It must be tough being a doctor. A single phone call and you have to drop everything, no matter where you are. As they walked, a thought struck her. Oh, Speaking of your hospital, I saw something on the news recently. A driver was impaled by a metal pipe, and your hospital saved him. The situation sounded so critical. It's incredible what you guys did. You saved an entire family." Hearing this, Mian straightened up slightly and replied in a modest tone, "It's what we're supposed to do. The success of a surgery doesn't rely on just one person." Faye pouted playfully. "Come on, don't be so humble. You make it sound like you weren't the one who performed the surgery. The chief surgeon definitely deserves the most credit." Mian didn't say anything else, but a faint, soft smile appeared on his face. Faye froze for a second, stunned. A man this serious actually smiled. And he looks so good when he smiles. When Mian glanced up at Faye, she quickly averted her eyes, hesitating. Finally, she blurted out, "Actually, I was on the hot search that day too, but, the online rumors, they're not true. Don't believe them." Mian seemed unaffected, his voice calm as he said, "I saw the screenshot my colleague sent me, but I don't pay attention to those things. If it's fake, you don't need to explain." The words were straightforward, but Faye panicked slightly. "I don't care what other people think," she said instinctively, "but I do care what you think." However, the last part of the sentence got caught in her throat. Faye realized she'd been staring too long at Mian's striking features. Embarrassed, she decided to change tactics. "I shouldn't have even brought it up," she said, feigning vulnerability. "The entertainment industry is brutal. Bullying happens all the time, and I've had my share of being wronged. I just thought maybe you'd feel sorry for me." Mian gave Faye a curious look, as though trying to decipher whether she was serious or putting on a show. For a moment, Mian seemed stunned. Then, without a word, he pulled a handkerchief from his pocket and handed it to Faye. Faye immediately shifted into full-on acting mode, playing the fragile and delicate type. If this was two-face acting, she was going to outshine every two-face out there. Carefully dabbing at the tears she'd forced out, she whispered softly, "Thank you." Just as she was debating whether to take the opportunity to lean in for a quick hug, a sudden and urgent shout broke through her thoughts. "Excuse me, move out of the way." Before she could react, a strong force pulled at her arm, and she was yanked forward. The next thing she knew, she fell straight to the ground. And then it happened, the classic idol drama moment. Her head was buzzing, completely blank as she tried to process what had just occurred. She had fallen directly onto Mian, and they kissed. Nearby, two strangers, who had almost collided with each other on bicycles, stopped and stared at the scene in confusion. One of them tilted his head and muttered, "What's going on?" "We were just dodging a bike. How did this turn into that?" Faye's brain screamed, "This is bad. This is really bad." But before Mian could move, Faye reacted first. She get up, a flicker of apology in her eyes, and seemed about to say something, only to freeze as if she'd seen a ghost. Then, without a word, she backed up several steps and bolted, leaving Mian sitting there, stunned and speechless. Mian tried to say something, but the words died on his lips. Instead, he sat there alone, looking utterly disoriented as the wind tousled his hair. Wait, is she crying? Mian thought, just as a sharp click pierced the silence. The sound jolted him. Mian looked up to see a camera hidden in the bushes, the flash still visible. Back at home, Four threw herself onto her bed, burying her face in the quilt. Her heart was still pounding uncontrollably. Did that really just happen? She thought. I kissed Mian, the same Mian I used to idolize in high school. The unattainable senior, the top student, the golden boy who collected awards like they were candy. Now, somehow, she had been pulled into such an unthinkable moment with him. The memory of their accidental closeness flashed through her mind, and before she knew it, she was rolling around in her blanket, kicking her legs wildly. "I'm sorry, universe," she muttered, her voice muffled by the quilt. After what felt like an eternity, she finally calmed down. Sitting up, she opened her address book, staring at Mian's number. Should I add his WeChat? She hesitated, warring with herself. In the end, her rational side won. No, not yet. With a sigh, she closed her phone and decided to leave it for another time. The next morning, Faye was burning calories on the treadmill when her phone buzzed with a video call request. It was from her supreme emperor, her energetic and no-nonsense grandfather. As soon as the call connected, her grandfather appeared on screen, puffing on a pipe. Without wasting a moment, he asked, "What's going on with all these hot searches? Are you being bullied?" Faye wiped the sweat from her forehead, feeling a little exasperated. "No, Grandpa. And what's with this over-the-top concern? You're acting like I'm about to jump off a cliff." It was hard to reconcile her grandfather's stern exterior with the warm-hearted man who constantly fretted over her. No wonder people often mistook her grandfather for being her mysterious top gifter. He's a married man. Why would I want to get involved with someone like that? I've also heard rumors of questionable things he's done behind the scenes. Can you help bring the truth to light? I don't want anything to do with him ever again, she said. Faye chose to leave out the details of Han's harassment, not wanting to add to her grandfather's worries. After all, her family had never supported her decision to enter the entertainment industry, and she preferred to keep them from stressing over her career. But her grandfather wasn't easily fooled. "Are you sure no one's been bullying you?" he pressed, his sharp eyes scrutinizing the screen. To reassure him, Faye flexed her arm, showing off her toned muscles. "Of course not. I'm a 10th Dan judo master. Who dare mess with me?" Her grandfather waved dismissively. Fine, I get it. I'll handle this minor issue myself. But next time, try to avoid making such a fuss." Faye pouted at the comment, but before she could respond, her grandfather's tone suddenly shifted. "You're not getting any younger. Isn't it time to find yourself a boyfriend? Don't tell me there's no one suitable around you." Hearing this, a fleeting image of someone immediately crossed Faye's mind. Mian, the peerless doctor. No matter how glamorous her life as a celebrity seemed, she couldn't escape the ever-present pressure of being urged to settle down. And when it came to potential partners, Mian was the first person who came to mind. Her grandfather, always sharp, noticed the shift in her expression. "What's this? Don't tell me you already have someone in mind." Caught off guard, Faye stammered. No, of course not. Even if there were, they probably wouldn't be interested in me." But her grandfather slapped his thigh in excitement. "Nonsense! If my precious grandchild likes someone, who would dare say no? If you're serious, I'll have them tied up and delivered to you." Faye couldn't suppress a laugh at the thought of Mian being tied up. "Grandpa, I'm not some bandit chief kidnapping brides. You have to consider their feelings too." Her grandfather's eyes twinkled with mischief. "Oh, so you do like someone. Who is it? Where do they live? How old are they? What's their family like?" Overwhelmed by the barrage of questions, Faye quickly made an excuse. "I have something to do, Grandpa. I'll talk to you later." She ended the call before he could be interrogated further. But just as she relaxed, her phone dinged with a new message. It was from her grandfather. "Don't waste time. Send me a photo of this person right away. I need to see if they're good enough for my precious grandchild." Unable to handle her grandfather's persistent urging, Faye hesitated for a few seconds before deciding to send a photo of Mian in a white coat during an experiment. On the other end, the old man zoomed in and studied the picture meticulously for a long time before finally responding with a short question. "Is he a doctor?" Without any expression, Faye typed back, "Yes." This time, her grandfather replied almost instantly. "What's wrong with that? He looks good. Make sure to hold on to him." The corners of Faye's mouth twitched at the string of adorable emojis her grandfather sent along with the message. She couldn't help but wonder which of his friends had taught him how to use them. What a lovable old rascal. Even after all these years, her heart still raced when she thought of Mian. But the idea of actually being together, that was something she hadn't seriously considered. Should I give it a try? Just then, Assistant Yu burst into the gym, holding up her phone in a panic. "Faye, look at this! Someone's stirring up trouble online again." Faye took the phone and glanced at the screen. An entertainment marketing account had posted a story claiming that her relationship with Han Li had fallen apart. To make matters worse, they included several photos of the two of them seemingly cuddling in a room. At first, Faye frowned, but then she chuckled. Where did this nonsense come from? Some people really don't know when to quit. Without hesitation, she decided to take direct action. "Let's settle this in court," she said, already drafting a legal warning to the blogger. "If this isn't true, what price are you willing to pay?" The blogger arrogantly replied, "I'm absolutely certain. If it's not true, I'll eat my words live, literally." A cold smirk appeared on Faye's face. "I'm waiting for you to say that." Next to her, Assistant Yu shivered slightly thought. She usually seems so soft and mild-mannered, but this side of her is terrifying. Without wasting another moment, Faye publicly forwarded the blogger's post with a simple caption. "Everyone, take a look at what they said. Please be sure to keep your promise." The internet erupted. Netizens, eager for drama, flooded the comments section, waiting to see how the story would unfold. It was clear to everyone watching that Faye had strong backing and unwavering support from someone powerful, and she wasn't afraid to fight back. Half an hour later, Faye's phone buzzed with a notification. She sighed inwardly. Grandpa's efficiency is unreal. Before she could open the message, her assistant suddenly yelled in frustration, "What's wrong with this Han Li? Why does he keep dragging you into his mess?" Faye's mood soured as she checked the latest Weibo post. To her disbelief, Han Li had published a public apology. "I'm sorry to my wife and to the fans who love me. I have to admit, someone did approach me at a hotel that day, insisting on coming to my room and trying to seduce me. But I held on to my principles and didn't cross the line." The post set the internet ablaze. It was a scandalous bombshell, and netizens were quick to react. Faye was stunned. Has he lost his mind? Is this scumbag actually self-destructing? Assistant Yu reached for her phone. "I have to call Boss Ling right now." But before she could, the door burst open and an enraged Ling stormed in. "I was nearby and saw the news on my way here," she said, practically seething. "What's gotten into Han Li? How dare he post something like that on Weibo?" Without waiting for a response, Ling dialed her agent, her voice sharp and unforgiving. What's with this nonsense? Dragging Faye into this mess alone? Do you realize there were witnesses at the hotel that day? Not to mention the surveillance cameras? If he's going to smear someone, has he even thought about the legal consequences? Faye, uncharacteristically calm, sat deep in thought. Is this really just because I rejected him? Is he so petty that he'd destroy me out of spite? But then another idea crept into her mind. This feels too reckless, even for him. Could there be another motive? Maybe he's trying to cover something up? Assistant Yu, who had been quiet until now, blurted out, "What if he's hiding something worse?" Faye's eyes lit up as she slapped her thigh. "Exactly, girl. Now you're thinking. Go even bolder." By then, Ling had finished her furious call. She exhaled sharply and crossed her arms. "I've seen plenty of stunts like this in the industry, but this feels off. Do you think he's okay? Or could there be more to this? But it's not enough to just speculate. We'll need evidence to expose him," Ling said. Faye immediately assumed the role of a truth seeker, like Conan Doyle's famous detective. "I'll figure out how to solve this," she declared confidently. But Ling quickly poured cold water on her enthusiasm. "And what exactly can you do as a third-tier star? If this scandal blows up any further, say goodbye to your endorsements and unfilmed scripts." Faye nearly choked on her harsh words. "Wow, thanks for the vote of confidence, Auntie. How can you look down on me, your own talent, like this?" Still, she refused to back down. "Just watch. I'll show you how I turn the tide and fix everything." She immediately called her grandfather, the Supreme Emperor, to confirm a few things. Meanwhile, Ling continued her frantic attempts to demand an explanation from Han Li's studio. After finishing her call, Faye opened Weibo, her expression calm and composed. With a flurry of keystrokes, she posted something mysterious before anyone could stop her. Ling, unaware of her actions, suddenly turned around and saw her fiddling with her phone. "What did I tell you about staying off social media during a crisis?" she scolded, grabbing Faye's ear. She then instructed Assistant Yu to contact the hotel and see if they could retrieve surveillance footage from that day to uncover video evidence. "What did you post just now?" she demanded, only to find Faye lounging on the sofa, already half asleep and completely unbothered. With a sigh, Ling opened Faye's Weibo account to see for herself. There it was, a cryptic post that read, "Hell is magnanimous, the devil walks among us." The next morning, Ling, sporting dark panda-like circles under her eyes, burst into Faye's room, shaking her awake. "Get up, Faye! Something huge just happened!" Half asleep, Faye groaned. "What now?" "It's incredible!" she exclaimed, pulling Faye upright. "You're a lucky muse, that's what you are. The scandal has flipped completely." Faye affectionately patted Ling's head. "See? I told you not to stress. Sometimes even the heavens can't stand what people do." Late the previous night, while most netizens were asleep, a bombshell report hit the internet like a thunderclap. An official account revealed that, thanks to a report from a Chaoyang citizen, a famous movie star Han and musician Chen had been caught violating the law in a hotel and were now in custody. The post clarified that Faye, who had stayed in the same hotel, was uninvolved. Furthermore, the photos and rumors circulating online were proven false. The revelation sent shockwaves across social media. The once revered Han Li's reputation crumbled overnight, leaving netizens in disbelief. The dignified Best Actor brought down in a single blow? This is unbelievable, many commented. Faye leaned back, reflecting on her phone call with his grandfather the night before. If not for the Supreme Emperor working behind the scenes, turning this around would have been nearly impossible. But then, the mischievous little devil inside Faye stirred. If I have someone to back me up, then why shouldn't I? Anyone who dares to bully me won't get away with it. She opened Weibo again, and a flood of notifications greeted her. Skimming through, she noticed something unprecedented, numerous private messages filled with apologies. Even the blogger who had slandered her earlier had quietly deleted the incriminating post. Faye sneered. "Do you really think you can sweep this under the rug?" Without hesitation, she dug up the screenshots of the blogger's post that she had saved earlier and sent a blunt message. "Some keyboard warriors think they're invincible, but life has a way of humbling you. My lawyer has been notified. Sit tight and prepare to follow through on your promise to eat your words." Literally. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Mian was on his way to a medical symposium with a few colleagues. As their car stopped at a red light on the commercial street, their attention was drawn to a massive electronic billboard. A perfume advertisement flickered to life. The scene featured a woman reclining on a bed, her alluring eyes captivating as she posed gracefully. It was impossible to ignore. One of Mian's colleagues glanced out the window and shook his head disapprovingly. "Celebrities these days are really something else. I heard this one tried to seduce an actor at a hotel in Kyoto. Now the whole internet's dragging her, and she deserves it." Frowning slightly, Mian asked, "Who is she?" The colleague gestured toward the screen. "That's her. I think she's called Faye something." Mian turned to the billboard, studying the image for a moment. Then, in his usual composed tone, he said, "We don't know the full story. It's not appropriate to comment." His colleagues exchanged surprised glances. "Whoa, Dr. Xi, what's with you today? Are you actually defending someone from the entertainment industry? Don't tell me you're one of her little fans." Another colleague chuckled. Want to make it interesting? Let's bet. If the rumors are true, you owe us a Michelin dinner. There's only one Michelin-starred spot in Shanghai, so better start saving up. Ignoring their teasing, Mian's gaze lingered on the billboard. His mind wandered to a memory. The back door of the movie launch venue, where he'd seen her fend off a predator with a swift shoulder throw, standing protectively like a fearless guardian. That girl was brave, decisive, and responsible. That's the real her, he thought. As the scandal surrounding Han Li continued to dominate the hot search, another topic unexpectedly climbed the rankings. Handsome doctor at medical summit. The attached photo featured none other than Mian himself, drawing admiration from netizens. Later, after wrapping up his speech and settling into his hotel, his thoughts wandered back to Faye. That girl, tangled up in baseless gossip. Is she holding up? Curiosity got the better of him, and he opened Weibo. The first thing he saw was Faye's latest post, calling out the blogger who had slandered her. Prepare to eat your words live, as promised. A mental image of crows squawking flew through Mian's mind, and he chuckled softly to himself. It seems I was overthinking. She's doing just fine. Mian's impressive speech at the academic summit catapulted him to the top of the hot search once again. Ling, scrolling through the news on her phone, couldn't help but sigh. This doctor is ridiculously handsome. Honestly, he looks more put together than most celebrities in the entertainment industry. But why does he look so familiar? Hearing this, Assistant Yu rushed over to take a look. Even Faye, sipping coffee nearby, craned her neck out of curiosity. The moment she saw the photo, her eyes widened, and she spit out a mouthful of coffee in shock. Isn't this Mian? Both Ling and Assistant Yu turned to stare at Faye, their expressions practically demanding answers. So, when exactly did you secretly meet this handsome doctor? Ling asked, crossing her arms. Faye cleared her throat awkwardly. Well, the last time I went to Kyoto for a checkup, he was the doctor who treated me. Ling's eyes widened in disbelief. What? The doctor who examined your chest was him? Meanwhile, Assistant Yu's face lit up with excitement, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. Details, please. Tell me everything. Faye shot her a glare, immediately recognizing the direction of her thoughts. What are you imagining? Stop it already. Yes, he's the one who examined me, but that's all there is to it. Besides, I still don't understand why a surgeon was working in the breast department that day. Assistant Yu nearly jumped out of her seat in excitement. Wow, wow, wow. This is getting better by the second. Annoyed, Faye grabbed a throw pillow and hurled it at her. Enough. Get your mind out of the gutter. This was a serious medical examination. What's your brain even filled with? Blushing slightly, Faye defended herself. Hey, it's not what you think. Ling raised an eyebrow, giving Faye a side-eye. Oh, really? Says the same person who asked me for a certain video link late at night. At this, Faye's face turned inexplicably red. Feeling a little guilty, she avoided their eyes. Ling, now seated and clearly intrigued, continued her interrogation. Didn't you say he's a fan of yours? Does he... like you? Faye coughed, trying to sound nonchalant. I mean, look at me. Who wouldn't like me? Besides, we went to the same high school, so maybe he's just being nice. Ling gave Faye a knowing smile, her tone meaningful. Sure. Just being nice, she said, watching Faye quietly with an amused glint in her eyes. Faye so embarrassed she could have dug herself a hole and disappeared into it. This is karma for all my big talk, she thought. Scrolling through Weibo, she glanced at the comments under the latest posts about Mian. Fans were going wild, flooding the comments with cries of "husband" and "imagine how good he smells." It seemed more and more people were noticing Mian. His brilliance, like gold, couldn't be hidden any longer. Ling interrupted Faye's daydreams. About that script I mentioned yesterday, she began. You've got the role, but it came at the cost of cutting your pay by half. Luckily, the Han Li scandal was resolved perfectly. Otherwise, this project would have been dead in the water. She handed over the script and added, It's a doctor role. This is the perfect opportunity to reshape your public image and win over more passers-by. Ling raised an eyebrow as she scrolled through Mian's trending photos. Since your new role is about a doctor, you can ask Mian to help you prepare for the part. Faye's guilt deepened. Since their last meeting, she hadn't contacted Mian. No calls, no messages. And now, asking for a favor felt awkward. Mian probably still thinks I'm a braggart, she thought. As Ling and Assistant Yu left, cheerfully waving goodbye, Faye sat there frowning. She had no idea how to reach out to her crush. Just then, her phone buzzed. A notification appeared. Friend request received. She clicked on it, and to her astonishment, it was from none other than Mian. Faye's heart skipped a beat. He added me first? Barely containing her excitement, she quickly accepted. Almost immediately, a message came through. I'm so sorry about that day. Faye's heart raced. Is he apologizing for the accidental kiss? She typed and deleted several responses before finally settling on 2 simple words. It's okay. On the other side, Mian stared at the response, a little puzzled. Does she still feel upset about that day? She didn't seem fine. Yet, she said it was okay. Meanwhile, Faye was beating herself up internally. Why am I so bad at conversation? Before she could dwell on it further, another message from Mian arrived. I had to prepare for a video conference that night, so I didn't get a chance to apologize properly. I didn't mean to offend you on the trestle. Faye thought back to that moment and felt a twinge of gratitude. If not for him pulling me back, that speeding bicycle would have hit me head on. Trying to lighten the mood, she pulled up a screenshot of the hot search about Mian saving lives and sent it to him. I've always known you were excellent, but I didn't expect you to be this amazing, she added, channeling her inner fangirl. Men like to be praised, right? He's no exception. I hope. But the reply she received was calm and detached. It's nothing worth mentioning, just part of my job. Faye stared at the message, feeling her admiration grow. As expected of my crush. He's so humble, not like those attention-seeking opportunists. Realizing that Mian didn't enjoy the spotlight, Faye typed back, I'll help reduce your exposure as much as I can. Mian responded politely, ending his message with a full stop. Faye groaned internally. A full stop? Seriously? How am I supposed to continue the conversation? Why couldn't he use a question mark instead? While racking her brain for a topic, a new message arrived. A picture of a medicine box. The text accompanying it read, This bruise ointment works well. If it still hurts, you can give it a try. Faye stared at the image for a long time, confused. What does he mean? Then it hit her like a lightning bolt. He's talking about my butt? Mortified, she slumped back in her chair. There goes my image as a graceful little fairy. It's all ruined now. Usually, boyfriends after a breakup should just vanish off the face of the earth, right? Imagine running into their current girlfriend and having a showdown over who they love more. That'd be some drama. Faye sent assistant YU to a luxury store to pick up a pre-ordered bag. However, what should have been a simple task turned into a heated argument with another customer. Didn't you text me to confirm my order? Assistant U snapped. Now these two are here claiming it's theirs. What's going on? The man standing next to the other customer tapped impatiently on the counter, while the store manager, looking visibly guilty, squeezed out an awkward smile. I'm terribly sorry, the manager said. It seems there was a mistake made by one of our clerks. Both parties were contacted about the same bag. But technically, this bag was reserved by Miss Jiao first. She gestured toward the woman beside the man, who was clinging to his arm like a delicate bird. Assistant Yu, fuming with anger, shot back. That's nonsense. That's not what you told me earlier when you were serving me. Just wait until my boss gets here. As the confrontation reached a standstill, a tall, striking figure appeared at the door. Her presence immediately drew all eyes in the room. Well, well, she said with a sly smile. I was wondering who had such good taste. Turns out it's Mr. Liu and Miss Jiao. Lu Cheng's eyes swept over the room, and his confident expression faltered for a moment. Meanwhile, Xiao's face stiffened, but she quickly recovered, slipping her arm through Lu Cheng's with practiced ease. Ah, so our Fei also has an eye for this bag, Xiao sweetly. I do like it, but since my Fei wants it, I'll let her have it. After all, it's just a bag. Her tone oozed false sincerity. Fei watched, her lips curling into a smirk. This girl hasn't changed one bit, still the same two-face act. Years ago, when Fei first debuted, she had played the role of a kind older sister, taking care of Xiao, and even introducing her to Lu Cheng, who was Fei's boyfriend at the time. But after discovering that Lu Cheng was actually the CEO of Huasheng, Xiao had grown envious, openly admiring Fei's luck while scheming behind her back. Fei clearly remembered one particular night during the last movie launch. When she called Lu Cheng, it was Xiao who answered. Lu Cheng is in the shower, Xiao had said coyly. Without another word, Fei hung up and immediately blocked all of Lu Cheng's contact information. But Lu Cheng wasn't one to back down. He later showed up, questioning why Fei had suddenly disappeared and stopped responding to him. Fei, donning her signature sunglasses, had coolly ordered her bodyguards to escort him out. Since then, the two had gone their separate ways, with no contact between them. And yet, fate had conspired to bring them together again in this luxury store. Just my luck, Fei thought, stifling a groan. The bag was part of an assignment from Ling, who had tasked Fei with purchasing it as a gift for the wife of the Galaxy director. Fei glanced at the bag, her tone calm and indifferent. It's a nice bag, but it's for an elder. Don't you think the color feels a bit old-fashioned? Xiao's face stiffened. Is she mocking my taste? Fei handed the bag to the store manager, adding with a pointed smile, Bags like men are best when they're what you truly like. Please pack it for Miss Xiao. Lu Cheng, who had remained silent until now, suddenly spoke, his expression dark. Are you implying I'm just a thing? Fei turned to him with a sharp smile. Would you rather I say that Mr. Liu isn't a thing? Lu Cheng was momentarily speechless, clearly taken aback. Fei, ever the eloquent star, had once again delivered a blow without using a single curse word. It wasn't every day you ran into a scumbag ex-boyfriend and got the chance to put him in his place. Lu Cheng's expression darkened further, his annoyance visible. Meanwhile, Xiao, the little two-face, immediately stepped in, her voice shrill. How can you be so rude to him? Faye's smile didn't reach her eyes. Oh? And sneaking around with Mr. Liu behind his girlfriend's back. That's polite? The room fell silent. The sales assistant, who had been quietly folding clothes nearby, suddenly perked up, her ears catching the unfolding drama. This is some juicy gossip, she thought, trying to act inconspicuous while hanging on to every word. Lu Cheng, now visibly furious, snapped, "What nonsense are you spouting? That never happened." Xiao, adopting a pitiful expression, looked as if she might cry. "It's not like that. It was you who broke up with Lu Cheng first. We only got together after that. How can you accuse me like this?" Faye chuckled, pulling out her phone. "Oh? Shall I pull up the late-night messages you sent me back then? You know, to jog your memory?" Xiao's face paled instantly, her confident facade faltering. I don't know what you're talking about." Faye waved dismissively, her expression dripping with disdain. "Drop the act. I don't care about the broken shoes I threw away. You can keep it. Just don't ever dirty my sight again." Lu Cheng, infuriated, tried to step forward, ready to argue. But Xiao quickly grabbed his arm, panic flashing in her eyes. She clearly feared that Faye would reveal something even more damning if the confrontation escalated. "Babe, go get the car first," Xiao said sweetly. "She misunderstood me. I'll explain it to her." With that, she pushed him out of the store, leaving her alone with Faye. Faye, still seething, called out, "What's wrong? Don't you want this bag anymore? Why don't you keep fighting for it?" Now that it was just the two of them, Xiao dropped her innocent act. Her gaze turned sharp and provocative. "Don't get too full of yourself," she sneered. "It's just a bag. I don't really care about it. Besides, isn't Director Zhu casting for his new movie? Thanks to Lu Cheng feeling bad for me, he spoke to the producer and got me a role in it." Faye's heart turned cold. So the person competing for the same role as me is her? Lifting her chin arrogantly, Xiao smirked. "You really think you can beat me for this role?" Faye narrowed her eyes but didn't respond, refusing to take the bait. She left the store and had barely stepped into the car when Ling's call came through. "I'm already on my way," she said, feeling irritated. As the car moved through traffic, Ling chattered like a concerned parent. "This doctor movie has great production value and excellent benefits. When you meet Director Shu later, make sure you leave a good impression, okay?" While waiting at a red light, Faye glanced out the window, spotting an airplane flying across the sky. Her thoughts drifted to Mian. Is the medical summit over? Did he already leave G City? She sighed inwardly, remembering her promise to her grandfather. Looks like I'll need to find another opportunity to win him over. The car resumed moving, and just as Faye approached a busy intersection, something caught her attention on the sidewalk. A pregnant woman stood frozen, one hand clutching her waist and the other supporting her large belly. Her face was pale, and she looked terrified. Amniotic fluid trickled down her legs. Faye's eyes widened in shock. Is she about to give birth? As the car slowed down, Ling's call came through again. "Where are you? Director Shu is already here." Faye ignored her for a moment, staring at the pregnant woman with mounting concern. What do I do now? Faye, driven by kindness, couldn't focus on the opportunity with Director Shu. Saving lives was the priority. Without explaining anything to Ling, she immediately pulled the car over and rushed to the pregnant woman. "Are you okay? Do you need me to take you to the hospital?" she asked urgently. The pregnant woman, pale and frightened, replied, "I think my amniotic fluid just broke. I feel like I'm about to give birth." Faye, having no experience with such situations, quickly called the hospital, provided their location, and asked for instructions on emergency measures. Following the guidance she received, she began seeking help from nearby passers-by. People responded enthusiastically, offering their coats to create a soft surface. The pregnant woman was gently helped to lie down on the makeshift bed, but tears of fear streamed down her face. Faye crouched beside her, holding her hand. "It's going to be okay," she said softly, trying to stay calm. "Just take deep breaths. Help is on the way." The woman clung tightly to Faye's arm, her grip trembling. At that critical moment, a steady, authoritative voice broke through the crowd. "Excuse me. I'm a doctor. Please step back and give us more space. We need room to breathe." Faye froze, recognizing the voice instantly. It's him, Mian. Relief flooded through her as Mian stepped forward, exuding confidence and calm. The onlookers followed his instructions, forming a human wall to provide privacy. Without pausing for pleasantries, Faye asked anxiously, "Can she give birth now?" "Yes," Mian replied, his tone steady. "But the fetus isn't in the right position. I'll adjust it, but I need you to assist with the delivery." Faye's eyes widened. "Me? I don't know how." He turned to her, his gaze firm. "Trust me. I'll guide you every step of the way." The crowd murmured words of encouragement to both Faye and the pregnant woman. "You've got this! Stay strong!" Moments later, the cries of a newborn filled the air. Everyone erupted into cheers. The baby was born safely just as the ambulance arrived. While Mian updated the paramedics on the situation, Faye stood to the side, overwhelmed with emotion. I can't believe it, she thought, looking down at her hands. I actually helped deliver a baby. With Mian. Tears welled up in her eyes as she marveled at the beauty of life and the extraordinary moment they had shared. Suddenly, a warm palm gently touched Faye's face, wiping away the tears that had unknowingly fallen. It was Mian. His gaze was tender, his voice soft as he said, "You did a great job." The beauty of the moment was overwhelming. Faye couldn't help but feel her heart race. This is the high school crush I've admired for so long. Should I just leap forward and kiss him? Passers-by, moved by the scene, stepped forward to praise Mian. "Doctor, you're so young and promising. Which hospital do you work at? We'll come find you when we need a doctor." Humble as ever, Mian bowed slightly and replied, "It wasn't just me." She was an incredible help, too. With that, he extended a hand and helped Faye to her feet. The crowd shifted their attention to her, recognizing the familiar face. "Wait, aren't you Faye?" one exclaimed. "My daughter loves you. You're such a kind-hearted star." Their heartfelt compliments turned the mood entirely around, erasing any lingering negativity from earlier. Faye, feeling overwhelmed by the attention, exchanged a quick glance with Mian. Neither of them were particularly skilled at handling such situations. Without hesitation, she leaned closer and whispered, "Let's get out of here." Before Mian could respond, she grabbed his arm and led him away, running until they rounded a corner. They finally stopped, both gasping for breath. It was only then that Faye remembered to ask, "Mian, why haven't you gone back yet?" "My flight is later today," he explained calmly. "I just happened to be passing by here." Even as she nodded, Faye's heart thudded in her chest. Why does my heart always race when I'm around him? The air between them felt charged, as if an invisible force was pulling them closer together. Acting on impulse, she reached out and gently wiped the sweat from Mian's forehead. Her eyes locked with his deep, captivating gaze, and she quickly withdrew her hand, her face flushing red. Why does it feel like he's leaving soon? And why does that thought bother me so much? Meanwhile, Mian observed her quietly, deep in thought. He noticed her blushing, covering her face, and fidgeting awkwardly. Just as he was about to ask if she was okay, Faye's phone rang, breaking the moment. The call snapped Faye out of her daydream. She quickly answered, only to hear Ling's voice yelling on the other end. "Faye, did you forget about the meeting? Director Shu and the others have already started discussing. What is your situation?" The rapid-fire scolding was sharp enough to make anyone flinch. Flustered, Faye stammered, "I'm on my way." Before hanging up, she turned to Mian, her tone rushed. "I'm sorry, I have to go. Have a safe trip." Without waiting for a response, she sprinted away, leaving Mian standing there slightly confused. Then, a faint smile appeared on his face. She's brave enough to help deliver a baby, but she doesn't have the courage to act on her feelings. Meanwhile, at the meeting, Director Shu, Two-Face Xiao, and her agent had already been discussing for nearly an hour. Although Director Shu was initially impressed by Faye, being late for their first meeting had left a bad impression. Finally, Faye arrived, pushing the door open hastily. "Director Shu, please wait a moment," she said, catching her breath. She had barely stepped in when Xiao, oozing false sweetness, chimed in, "Faye, did you oversleep? You look like you came in such a rush. Oh, and what's that mark on your face? You wouldn't want the director to think you don't value this meeting, would you?" Faye forced a polite smile, ignoring the jab. She turned to Director Shu and said, "I sincerely apologize for being late." There was an unexpected incident on the road. Director Shu's expression didn't soften. "Punctuality and respect are essential qualities for an actor," he said sternly. "No excuses are necessary." Faye, understanding the importance of the opportunity, tried to salvage the situation, but Director Shu's next words crushed her hopes. "The candidates for this role have already been finalized," he said firmly. Her shoulders slumped, and she lowered her head, thinking, maybe it's just not meant to be. Xiao, sensing her defeat, couldn't resist adding another jab. "Oh, Faye, accidents happen, but wouldn't it have been better to leave earlier?" Her words dripped with fake concern, but the underlying sarcasm was obvious. Faye clenched her fists, resisting the urge to snap back. This isn't over yet, she thought. Faced with Faye's angry glare, Xiao hesitated, suddenly fearful and choosing to stay silent. Faye took a deep breath and apologized again. "I'm truly sorry for being late. It's my fault. But if I could do it all over again, I'd still make the same choice and leave at the same time." On the way back, Ling, sitting beside her in the car, asked, "What exactly happened?" "It's nothing," Faye replied, waving it off. "I just ran into a pregnant woman on the verge of giving birth and helped deliver the baby." Ling looked bewildered. "Then why didn't you explain that to Director Shu? This role is literally about a medical workplace." Faye chuckled bitterly. "If an explanation could fix everything, I'd need 100 mouths. But what's done is done." She gazed out the window, her thoughts drifting as a plane soared across the sky. Suddenly, something clicked. "By the way, where is this show being filmed?" Ling glanced at her. "It's in Kyoto." Faye froze. Kyoto? A medical drama? Could it possibly involve Mian? Images of him flashed in her mind, but she shook her head quickly. I'm overthinking. That's not possible. Later, Faye asked the driver to take her to the hospital where the woman had been admitted. Outside the delivery room, she spotted a young man and approached him. Who are you? The man asked. Faye held out a bouquet of flowers and introduced herself. My name is Faye. Was a daughter born into your family today? The man's face broke into a smile. You're the one who saved my wife and daughter. Thank you so much. He led her inside, where Faye humbly replied, I only helped a little. Fortunately, a professional doctor was there too. How's your wife doing? Hearing her voice, the man's parents-in-law stood up, their faces glowing with gratitude. Ling, observing the man's father-in-law, felt a twinge of recognition. Why does he seem familiar? She wondered. Was he in the news? The father-in-law stepped forward to express his thanks. We're so grateful to you for saving our family, he said earnestly. At that moment, the young mother emerged from the delivery room, holding a tiny, swaddled baby in her arms. She smiled at her parents and said, Did you realize she's a big star? This is Miss Faye. Turning to Faye, she added, How about making my baby your goddaughter? Faye hesitated, but when she extended a finger to the newborn, the tiny pink baby grabbed it and instinctively put it in her mouth. Her heart melted. She is too cute. I really like her, Faye said with a warm smile. We must have a special connection. Starting today, this little girl will be my goddaughter. The parents-in-law beamed with joy. Now we have a goddaughter as well. Meanwhile, Ling couldn't shake the feeling that the father-in-law looked incredibly familiar. She discreetly pulled out her phone to investigate. When she found the answer, her jaw nearly dropped. As they left the delivery room, Ling couldn't wait to share her discovery with Faye. You've met a truly noble person, she exclaimed. Noble person? What are you talking about? Faye asked, puzzled. Ling handed over her phone, showing her the information she had found. Faye's eyes widened in disbelief. The woman I helped deliver on the street is the mayor's daughter? This is what they call being rewarded for doing good deeds, Ling said with a grin. Do you think Director Zhu will hear about this and give you another chance? Faye was still processing the turn of events, but the story of Faye and Mian saving 2 lives on the street quickly went viral on Weibo, climbing to the top of the trending list. The comments were overwhelmingly positive, praising their acts of kindness and heroism. For the first time in a long while, Faye felt genuinely touched by the public's response. But then, amid the glowing praise, a particularly offensive comment caught her eye. A user named Ching Ching wrote, She's nothing but a mistress. Garbage like her can't fool anyone. No amount of whitewashing will work. Faye's breath hitched in anger. Where did this villain come from? She immediately replied, If you don't have evidence, I'll see you in court. But the user didn't back down, firing back. Faye, you know exactly how you climbed to the top. Her frustration boiled over. This is ridiculous. You think you can slander me? Just wait. I'll track you down myself. Before she could act on her anger, her phone rang. It was Director Zhu. Faye, I saw the hot search, he said warmly. I'd like to offer you a role in the drama. Surprised, she asked, Didn't you say someone else was already chosen? Director Zhu explained, Our script has dual female leads. I think you'd be perfect for one of the roles. But there's a condition. You'll need to spend time studying in a designated hospital beforehand. Swallowing hard, Faye asked, Which hospital? We haven't finalized it yet, Director Zhu replied, but the top choice is Kyoto First People's Hospital. Her heart skipped a beat. Kyoto First People's Hospital? Isn't that where Mian works? She immediately agreed. No problem, I'll do it. As she ended the call, she couldn't suppress her excitement. Images of her and Mian working closely together, maybe even sharing an intimate moment, flashed through her mind. Reclaiming Director Zhu's favor was already a victory, but the possibility of crossing paths with her crush again made her smile even brighter. Meanwhile, at the hospital's cafeteria, Mian sat down with his tray, about to enjoy a quiet lunch, unaware of what fate had in store. Li Jun, a friend from the anesthesiology department, approached Mian with a curious look. Hey, Mian, have you noticed the way people have been looking at you today? Is something going on? Mian, calm as always, replied, I've been focused on seeing patients. I don't have time to notice how others look at me. But Li Jun wasn't ready to drop it. Come on, tell me the truth. What's the deal between you and that actress? There were waves of paparazzi outside the hospital today. As Mian reached for his meal, Faye's beautiful face suddenly appeared in his mind. Not wanting to complicate things for her, he said, I don't know her that well. We come from different worlds. Disappointed, Li Jun sighed. Fine, you're not giving me anything useful. Let's just eat. He picked up his phone for some mindless scrolling and froze. Oh wow, the top trending search is about Faye kissing a man on the street. The entertainment industry really is wild. He glanced at Mian. No wonder you say you're not from the same world. But who's the guy? I'm curious. He clicked on the trending post, and as the image loaded, the rib he had just bitten into seemed to launch itself from his mouth. A sudden fit of coughing overtook him, propelling the rib through the air until it landed squarely on Mian's plate. Mian's sharp gaze shot over like a warning. Lee Jun, you'd better explain yourself quickly. Still coughing, Lee Jun waved his hands defensively. I don't know who this Fei Fei is, but I think something's off here. He quickly turned his phone toward Mian, showing him the trending news. Didn't you just say you don't know this actress well? Then why is there a photo of you two kissing on the hot search? Meanwhile, Fei was in a car on her way to the airport when she saw the same trending news. Her face turned pale. It was just an accident, she muttered, trying to answer Ling's barrage of questions. I was dodging a bicycle and accidentally kissed him. But even as she explained, she couldn't stop herself from muttering softly, I kind of wish this scandal were real. Ling, overhearing her, scolded her loudly. You can't deny it now. If you do, netizens will think you're being dishonest. Assistant Yu chimed in, not only that, but it'll look like you're throwing Dr. Mian under the bus. Fei frowned, thinking aloud. But if I don't explain, won't it affect Mian's reputation? This led to a lengthy lecture from Ling and Assistant Yu about handling scandals in the entertainment industry. Their advice boiled down to one point: use the narrative involving Mian to calm public opinion. Fei, however, was conflicted. As much as she liked Mian, more than she wanted to admit, she had never intended to leverage their connection for personal gain. Lost in thought, she realized they had arrived at the airport. Shaking off her internal struggle, she collected her things and headed into the waiting lounge. In the airport waiting room, Fei scrolled through the flood of online news about her and Mian. Some comments speculated about the CP, couple pairing, becoming real, while others harshly criticized her. She's not good enough for the doctor, one comment read. The gap between celebrities and ordinary people is just too wide, another said. There's a rumor she's had over 10 boyfriends, someone added maliciously. Fei frowned at the absurdity of it all. Why do people find so much joy in gossip? Meanwhile, in the hospital cafeteria, Lee Jun couldn't resist teasing Mian as he finished his meal. Mian, a heads up next time when you're in a relationship. I feel like I've been left out of the loop. This CP scandal has taken on a life of its own. He shook his head dramatically and walked off, plate in hand. Mian sighed, feeling the weight of the situation. I never imagined that moment would be secretly photographed. Pulling out his phone, he opened WeChat and clicked on Fei's account. Her profile picture caught his attention. It was a serene image seamlessly blending her beauty with nature. Taking a deep breath, he began typing. At the same time, Fei was busy replying to netizens, challenging the ridiculous claims about her. Where's the proof I've had over 10 boyfriends? She muttered under her breath. Her phone buzzed with a message. Opening the chat carefully, she saw a message from Mian. I'm sorry about the photo. I didn't mean to cause you any trouble. Fei felt a wave of warmth. He's apologizing? He's not the one who should feel bad. She quickly typed back, Mian, you stole my lines. I should be the one apologizing. Before she could think further, her assistant interrupted, reminding her it was time to board the plane. As she found her seat, a man dressed in an avant-garde mix of fashion styles, a clear marker of someone from the fashion world, sat down beside her. His strong cologne filled the air, and Fei immediately noticed he didn't seem to be in high spirits. Even as the plane prepared for takeoff, he was quietly messaging on his phone, his demeanor heavy. Noticing tears in his eyes, Fei, ever the compassionate one, handed him a tissue and offered a comforting smile. No matter what's happening, it'll get better. Just hang in there. The man turned, took off his sunglasses, and revealed his face. Thanks, he said in a deep voice. Fei froze. Wait, he's a man? The realization left her stunned, caught completely off guard. I'm sorry, she stammered, laughing awkwardly. You're so good-looking. I thought you were a woman. The man chuckled softly, taking the tissue. It's fine. Thanks for being kind. Feeling thoroughly embarrassed, Fei decided to avoid saying anything more to make the situation worse. When they finally landed, her agent, Ling, greeted her with her usual commanding energy. Fei could only brace herself for what was to come. Ling, Fei's diligent agent, secured her an incredible opportunity, a chance to walk the runway for an international luxury brand. She instructed Fei to attend the Milan Fashion Chief Director's meeting, where the perfect candidate would be selected to shoot the cover of a globally renowned magazine. You need to perform well, Ling emphasized. But deep down, Fei wasn't feeling confident. With so many big stars in the running, how could I possibly stand out? Still, she nodded and promised, I'll do my best. Later that evening, they arrived at a private residence where the meeting would take place. Although Fei was filled with doubt, she kept her worries to herself. That night, after finally falling asleep, Fei was jolted awake by the persistent ringing of her phone. Grumbling, she reached for it to see who was calling, and immediately sat up in shock. It's a message from Mian. Her eyes scanned the screen, and her heart skipped a beat. His message was filled with care, even suggesting she hold off on clarifying anything about the scandal just yet. Fei's heart soared. So, he's really looking out for me. My crush is helping me find a way through this mess. She hesitated, debating whether to take the opportunity to confess her feelings. But the fear of coming on too strong held her back. She typed a message, deleted it, retyped, and deleted again. Why is this so hard? Her trembling hands betrayed her as she accidentally hit send. Panicking, Faye quickly pressed the withdraw button. Please don't let him see it. Please be too busy to notice. But then, ding! Mian had already replied. Though his response wasn't entirely clear, Faye's embarrassment skyrocketed. How do I recover from this? Trying to mask her nerves, she relied on her not-so-polished acting skills and flooded the chat with playful, over-the-top compliments. Mian replied, "We're the same age, so just think of me as your friend. You don't need to be so formal." But Faye, ever the bold one, fired back. "All right, then as your friend, show me your abs." Caught off guard, Mian's face flushed red. He hadn't intended to lead the conversation in such a direction. How does she always manage to make me blush? Meanwhile, Faye tossed and turned, her thoughts racing. Did I cross the line? Did he figure out I like him? Anxiously, she waited for a reply, her heart pounding. "Please, Dr. Mian, just respond," she whispered into the silence. Finally, her phone buzzed. His message read, "I'm going to sleep now." Relieved, Faye let out a laugh and flopped back into bed. At least he replied. She stared at the ceiling, her mind replaying the exchange, before finally drifting off to sleep with a smile. The next day at noon, Ling prepared a lavish lunch. As Faye reached out eagerly to grab a plate, she was stopped by Ling, who handed her a dish of vegetables. "This is your share," Ling said teasingly. While Ling enjoyed her meal, she received a private message that made her chuckle. Curious, Faye asked, "Ling, what do people mean when they say Han Li has ED? Does that mean he has some strange disease?" Ling smirked. "Let me give you an example," she said, before pausing. Faye, as curious as a schoolchild, waited impatiently for the explanation. When Ling suddenly decided to stop mid-sentence, Faye clung to her arm. "You can't stop talking halfway. What does it mean?" Ling smiled cryptically. "I've already given you the answer," she said, leaving Faye more confused than ever. Determined to uncover the truth, Faye thought to herself, "Fine, I'll just ask a professional." Later, at the hospital, Faye decided to address her question directly to Mian. But before she could, the topic shifted when someone else brought up the rumors about their supposed relationship. Li Jun, always full of gossip, added fuel to the fire. "Dr. Xiao from Orthopedics is a die-hard fan of Faye. Ever since she found out about your affair, she's been spreading rumors non-stop." Li Jun then perched himself on Mian's desk, adopting a relentless posture. "I'm not leaving until I dig up some juicy details," he said with a grin. Just then, Mian's phone buzzed with a new message. As he read it, his face turned noticeably red. Li Jun's eyes lit up at the sight of his reaction. "Ah, Mian, what's this? You're blushing just from a message?" "Get out," Mian barked, trying to maintain his composure. Li Jun, unfazed, leaned in mischievously. "Come on, just show me. What did she send you?" "Leave. Now." Mian snapped, his glare sharp. Li Jun, ever the troublemaker, chuckled as he exited. Fine, but I'll be recording everything next time. Don't say I didn't warn you," he said, closing the door behind him with a satisfied grin. Alone again, Mian stared at the messages from Faye, his thoughts racing. How am I supposed to explain this to her? Eventually, he sent back a detailed explanation filled with professional terminology. Meanwhile, Faye, who was eating lunch while checking her messages, almost choked. A mouthful of rice sprayed out as her face turned bright red, whether from embarrassment or secondhand mortification was unclear. The message read like a medical lecture. Caught between laughing and crying, she reread the mini-medical class text. Her reaction startled Ling, who quickly stood up. What happened? Did some bad news break online? Faye immediately threw herself into Ling's arms, sobbing, "Why didn't you just tell me earlier what ED means in medical terms?" Ling, now realizing what had happened, pushed her back gently. "I did tell you, but you weren't listening." Faye thought back and realized Ling had said it, but in such a roundabout way that she hadn't understood at the time. Just then, her phone buzzed again. Panicking, she thought, "Oh no, is this another science lecture?" She hesitantly picked up the phone, only to exhale in relief. It wasn't from Mian. Instead, it was a notification from the troll account Ching Ching, still stirring up trouble online. Faye did some quick digging and discovered something shocking. The account was being used by Xiao's younger brother. Her eyes narrowed. "Xiao, you're really something. Just wait. I'll make sure you regret this." Later that evening, Faye attended a dinner for her new film crew. On the way to the hotel, she informed Ling about the online troll's identity. Furious, Ling exclaimed, "What? No one in the industry even knew Xiao had a younger brother, let alone one 17 years younger." When they arrived at the hotel, the air grew tense. As fate would have it, Faye spotted none other than Lu Cheng escorting Xiao inside. Ling leaned over, worried. "Can you handle this on your own?" With a confident smirk, Faye replied, "This Faye isn't afraid of anyone." She opened the car door and stepped out, radiating confidence. Hearing the sound of the door, Xiao turned and saw Faye approaching. Her arm tightened around Lu Cheng as she said in a syrupy voice, "Oh, Faye, are you here to have dinner with your boyfriend?" Her words were clearly aimed at Lu Cheng, but Faye didn't even glance his way. Instead, she walked past them without breaking stride, replying nonchalantly, "Unfortunately, I think I'll be seeing you around. I can't wait to see how you handle yourself on set." The veiled jab left Xiao's smile frozen in place as Faye strode confidently into the hotel, ready to face whatever came next. Faye entered the private room for the crew dinner, feeling a secret sense of satisfaction. As she stepped inside, Xiao's confusion was written all over her face. "What's going on? Why are you here?" Xiao blurted out. Before Faye could respond, the director beamed with excitement. "Wonderful. Both of our leading ladies are here," he announced, gesturing for her to sit. "Come, take a seat." Xiao's expression darkened, unable to hide her disbelief. What? She's in this production? And as a lead? Walking to her seat, Faye couldn't help but reflect on the blatant favoritism and hierarchy that ruled the entertainment industry. How obvious can it get? She thought, though grateful for the recognition she had earned. Taking a seat beside the other female lead, Faye engaged in polite conversation, her peripheral vision catching Xiao's every move. "Little troublemaker," she mused inwardly. "The days of dealing with me are far from over." Xiao, clearly unwilling to be overshadowed, decided to stir the pot. She smiled slyly and said, "Oh, I bumped into Faye at the door earlier. I thought she was here for a date with her boyfriend." The mention of the recent hot search, combined with Xiao's deliberate provocation, immediately piqued the room's curiosity. All eyes turned to Faye, eager for gossip. Caught off guard, Faye hesitated before calmly responding, "Let's focus on work, everyone. I don't feel the need to explain my personal life." Still, the mention of Mian brought an unbidden blush to her cheeks. "He's not my boyfriend yet," she thought, "but I'm sure he will be someday." "Sorry, Mian. My imagination is running wild again." The unintentional blush didn't go unnoticed, and the room erupted with playful blessings and well wishes. However, Lu Cheng, sitting nearby, couldn't resist a jab. "You have a boyfriend?" he asked sarcastically. "Then why not call him over to join us for dinner?" Faye ignored him, which only stoked his irritation. "If he comes," Lu Cheng pressed, "it'll be on me. I'll even invest in another film if he shows up." The relentless comments from Lu Cheng set the room abuzz with speculation. Is he jealous? The onlookers wondered. Suddenly, the private room door swung open, and everyone turned to look. It was just the waiter bringing in food. But through the gap in the door, Faye caught a glimpse of someone familiar, a tall figure that made her heart skip a beat. It's him, Mian. And judging by the murmurs in the room, others who had seen the trending news recognized him too. Everyone in the room turned to look out the door, murmuring in admiration. "That's him, the genius doctor," someone exclaimed. "And so handsome too," another chimed in. Lu Cheng, however, crossed his arms skeptically. He still couldn't believe Faye had a boyfriend. Turning to her with a mocking tone, he said, "Isn't he supposed to be your boyfriend? Then, why don't you get up and greet him?" The provocation lit a fire in Faye. Refusing to back down, she stood abruptly and declared, "All right, let's go. Who's afraid of whom?" Her heart pounded as she approached the door, trying to suppress her nerves. What am I even doing? I don't have a script, and now I have to convince my crush to play along? Meanwhile, the director quickly instructed Zhang, "Go and invite Dr. Mian to join us." Zhang dashed off like a bird, leaving Faye no time to prepare or coordinate with Mian. Outside, Mian had just finished seeing off his guests when Zhang approached him. "Dr. Mian, what an honor to meet you," Zhang exclaimed, catching his breath. Surprised, Mian gave a polite nod. "I'm sorry, do we know each other?" Zhang quickly explained. "Your girlfriend is in our crew. We're having a dinner in the private room, and the director sent me to invite you to join us." Mian raised an eyebrow. "My girlfriend?" he repeated, confused. Zhang grinned and added, "Yes, she's been trying to keep you hidden from us, worried we might bother you. You have no idea how much she likes you." Realization dawned on Mian. Girlfriend? He must be talking about Faye. Before he could ask further questions, Zhang ushered him toward the private room. As they arrived, Faye locked eyes with Mian, her thoughts spiraling. Who am I? Where am I? What is happening? The crowd erupted into cheers. "Doctor! Mian is so handsome. Brains and looks, he's got it all." He could overshadow the whole entertainment industry. Actress Dan chimed in with a sly smile. "Faye, your boyfriend is amazing. Invite him in to join us." Faye covered her face with her hands, sneaking a glance at the door. The director had grabbed Mian's hand and was enthusiastically saying, "Doctor Mian, it's such an honor to meet you. You're a hero in the eyes of the whole nation." Mian replied humbly, exchanging polite pleasantries. The director then gestured toward Faye. "Your girlfriend is here as well. Come sit with us." Now both the director and Mian were looking straight at her. Faye felt like a knife was pressed against her neck. Faye's face flushed as she watched Mian walk toward her with effortless grace. He's really coming over. And he didn't deny anything, she thought, rubbing her hands nervously. He's so kind. Her eyes followed his every move as he picked up the cup in front of her. Even his fingers, she noticed, were unbelievably elegant. In his calm, soothing voice, Mian asked, "Am I interrupting?" Looking at the man she had admired for so long, Faye struggled to calm the storm inside her. "I'm a big star, the beloved treasure of my family. Why do I lose my composure every time I see him?" She scolded herself. Trying to regain her composure, she hurriedly picked up the teapot and began pouring him tea. "Of course not," she stammered, looking at him blankly. Mian gently took the teapot from her hands. "I'll do it. Be careful," he said softly. The group around them, already engrossed in the unfolding interaction, looked on like spectators at a live show. Faye's heart raced as her hand brushed against his. "Why am I so clumsy? Why can't I focus when he's around?" she lamented inwardly. Just then, actress Dan couldn't resist asking, "Faye, how did you and your boyfriend meet?" Before Faye could respond, Mian stepped in smoothly. "We're high school classmates," he said, effortlessly diffusing the situation. Blushing like a shy schoolgirl, Faye proudly added, "Yes, back in high school, he was the star of our school. Every girl adored him." Across the table, Lu Cheng, who had been watching their interaction closely, found it increasingly irritating. Just then, Faye's phone buzzed with a message from Mian. "Is the person across from you the one causing trouble?" She chuckled internally. "This guy is sharp." Quickly, she replied, "He's definitely annoying." Mian responded calmly, "Then let's find an excuse to leave." Encouraged by his suggestion, Faye began searching for a way out, but before she could act, Xiao chimed in with a sly smile. "Dr. Ximian, you're so lucky. Many people in the industry have chased after Faye, and even her exes can't seem to forget her." Her words dripped with hidden meaning, and the subtle jabs weren't lost on the table. Who could blame them? Actress Dan interrupted Xiao with a sly smile. "Faye is undeniably charming, but let's face it, a good ex is best left in the past." Lu Cheng, ever the provocateur, interjected with a smirk. "I'd rather hear why she broke up with her ex." The thinly veiled attacks from Xiao and Lu Cheng finally wore down Faye's patience. She snapped, her tone sharp. "What's the point of dragging this on? I'm not here to drive up the price of pigs. If someone wants it, take it." Xiao, clearly provoked, smirked and said, "Speaking of pigs, I've heard rumors. Some people once played mistress to a certain director. With a girlfriend like that, it's no wonder a man would break up." Her gaze shifted to Mian, her words dripping with malice. "I wonder what her current boyfriend would think of that." Faye's blood boiled. How dare she slander me in front of Mian? Just as she was about to lash out, a large warm hand covered hers. "Speak with evidence," Mian said firmly, addressing Xiao. "Otherwise, you could face legal consequences." Xiao opened her mouth to retaliate, but the director intervened. "Enough," he said, his voice cutting through the tension. "This dinner is for you to get to know each other, not to quarrel. Xiao, there's no need for sarcasm." The director turned to Faye. "Director Lee explained everything to me. He admitted it was his own mistake, that he was caught by his wife, and it caused unnecessary misunderstandings. You, Faye, were completely innocent." Xiao's face burned with embarrassment. "Thank you for clarifying, Director Shu," Faye said sincerely, feeling a wave of relief. The room settled into an awkward quiet. While intelligent people understood the truth, Faye knew not everyone present was smart enough to let it go. She glanced at Mian, her confidence returning. "Honestly, I don't need to explain myself to ugly rumors. Don't you agree, babe?" she said, her tone playful yet poised. Mian met her gaze with a warm, affirming smile. "You're absolutely right," he replied smoothly. The way he looked at her made her heart flutter. "I think I might melt." The simple gesture of holding her hand felt like he was supporting her in every way. Maybe turning a fake boyfriend into a real one isn't impossible after all. The tension was too much for Lu Cheng, who stood abruptly. "I can't stay here," he muttered before heading for the door. "Lu Cheng," Xiao called after him, her voice laced with panic. "Don't go!" But Lu Cheng ignored her entirely. Flustered, Xiao stood, offering a strained apology. "Sorry, Director Shu. Please enjoy your meal. I'll take my leave as well." Faye couldn't hide her satisfaction as she watched the two retreat. "Good riddance to both of you," she thought. To ease the lingering awkwardness, Faye raised her glass. "I'd like to apologize for disrupting the atmosphere earlier," she said. "Let me make a toast. Despite everything, I'm genuinely happy tonight. The rumors are cleared, and most importantly," she glanced at Mian with a shy smile, "I have the best boyfriend by my side." The room erupted in good-natured laughter and cheers, the earlier tension now a distant memory. After several glasses of red wine, her head was spinning, and she was beginning to lose consciousness. As the evening wound down, some crew members playfully teased, "It's clear that Dr. Mian is taking good care of you. Looks like you're really happy, Faye. Better take him back safely." Faye, tipsy and bold, clung to Mian and said coquettishly, "I don't want to leave yet." Her legs wobbled, and before she knew it, she fell directly into his arms. Without hesitation, Mian caught her and, in one smooth motion, lifted her into a princess carry. "We should go back," he said gently. Blushing deeply, Faye shyly buried her face in his neck, too embarrassed to respond. As they left, Mian nodded politely and said, "Thank you, everyone." Behind them, someone quipped meaningfully, "Have a nice evening, Doctor." Mian paused for a moment, sensing the hidden implications of the comment, but chose not to react. When they got to the car, he carefully placed Faye in the seat, noting her unconscious state. He searched for her phone to contact her agent, but quickly realized there was no fingerprint or face unlock set. With no other option, he decided to take her back to his place. Once home, Mian took a shower and dried his hair with a towel. As he looked at Faye's sleeping form, he noticed the quilt had slid down to her waist, leaving her partially exposed. Concerned she might catch a cold, he stepped forward and covered her with the quilt. But just as he adjusted it, she turned in her sleep, the quilt slipping again to reveal her slender, pale legs. The sight stirred something within him, but he shook off the thought, determined to stay composed. He firmly tucked the quilt around her again and turned to leave. Suddenly, Faye's small hand shot out, grabbing his nightgown tightly. Before he could react, her pull caused him to stumble, falling onto the bed. Now, they were inches apart, her warm breath brushing against his skin. Half conscious, Faye mumbled and tugged on his robe, her actions both innocent and unintentionally seductive. Mian's heart raced as he looked at her, so vulnerable, yet so captivating. For a fleeting moment he felt drawn to her, but he quickly shook the thought away. "I can't stay here," he muttered to himself. As he gently removed her hand from his robe and stood up, Faye stirred slightly, rubbing her eyes. Her gaze landed on him, and in her dazed state she whispered, "My crush. Am I dreaming?" Before he could make sense of the situation, Faye placed her hands around his neck. "This feels so real," she murmured, her voice soft and dreamy. "Mian," she called out again, her tone affectionate and almost pleading. Mian struggled to maintain his composure. "Don't make trouble," he said, his voice calm yet firm. But Faye, convinced it was all a dream, felt pure happiness hearing his voice so clearly. "If this is my dream," she thought, "then anything goes, right?" Without hesitation, she pulled her stoic, unattainable Mian down from the pedestal she had placed him on. Wrapping her arms tightly around his neck, she pulled him closer until their lips met in an impulsive kiss. Both of them seemed to lose themselves for a moment. But despite the pull of the moment, Mian's rationality prevailed. Gently, he pulled away, trying to steady himself. He didn't want to take advantage of her vulnerability. However, Faye, feeling emboldened in what she believed was her dream, found unexpected strength. She pushed Mian down, her brows furrowing in playful defiance. "This is my dream," she declared with determination. "You have to behave and listen to me." Before he could respond, she leaned in to kiss him again. "Do you even know who I am?" Mian asked, his voice carrying both curiosity and restraint. Faye didn't seem to hear him. She cupped his face with her hands, her fingers gently tracing his features as she whispered, "Mian." Her hands wandered further, her movements uninhibited and full of intoxicated confidence. Mian, sensing his self-control slipping, caught her restless hands in his own. "This has to stop," he thought. He turned her over and carefully pinned her arms to prevent her from moving further. Finally, he managed to free himself, breathing deeply to steady his nerves. He adjusted her blanket and tucked her in, making sure she was comfortable. As her breathing softened into steady, rhythmic sleep, Mian slipped out of the room and headed to the bathroom. He turned on the cold shower, letting the icy water wash over him, calming his racing thoughts. That was way too close, he thought, relieved it was still early morning. The next day, Faye woke to the sound of her alarm. Reaching out groggily to turn it off, she realized she couldn't find her phone. Bolting upright, fragments of the previous night began to flood back to her. What happened? She thought, lifting the blanket cautiously. Relieved to find herself fully dressed, she sighed. "Thank goodness," she muttered. "No drunken mess." But then, vivid flashes of the night, his touch, the warmth of his embrace and the feel of his lips, flooded her mind. It felt so real, she thought, her face heating up. Looking down at her hands, she wondered, was that all just a dream? Looking at her hands, Faye recalled the feeling from last night, her crush's touch still vivid in her mind. Confused, she began piecing together the events. Wait, he was the one who brought me back, right? Determined to confirm, she jumped out of bed and hurriedly opened the door. The scene that greeted her left her speechless. Mian was in the kitchen, calmly cooking breakfast. Her mind immediately replayed fragments of her dream, making her cheeks flush crimson. Oh no, the things I said in my dream. She cringed at the memory. Yet amidst her embarrassment, another thought struck her. Why didn't I seize such a golden opportunity? Why did I let myself get drunk? Unable to resist, she took out her phone, intending to secretly snap a picture of him. But the loud click of the camera shattered the morning silence. Startled, Faye panicked. I forgot to mute the phone, she thought, mortified. When Mian glanced her way, she quickly pretended to take a selfie. Good morning, Mian, she said cheerfully, as though nothing had happened. Stay calm. If you're not embarrassed, it's others who'll feel awkward. Mian turned around, a faint smile on his lips. Good morning. Quite the coincidence, isn't it? He said, a teasing edge in his voice. The curtain of embarrassment fell even heavier on Faye. She quickly responded, Thank you for letting me stay last night. There are new toiletries in the bathroom, Mian said, nodding toward the direction. Understanding immediately, Faye excused herself and hurried to freshen up. When she returned, they sat together for breakfast. She couldn't help but marvel at the meal before her. A perfect man. He even cooks like a professional. Mian, she began, her voice filled with gratitude. Thank you so much for everything last night, especially for playing along with me in front of everyone. Mian looked at her, his tone casual but probing. Is there anything else? Anything else? She repeated, confused. He studied her for a moment before replying. Never mind. It's nothing. So she doesn't remember the rest, he thought, deciding not to mention it. Faye, blissfully unaware of his inner thoughts, happily enjoyed the meal. This is delicious, she said, savoring another bite. Suddenly a thought popped into her head and she looked at him nervously. Mian, I don't handle alcohol well. My family says I get a bit crazy when I'm drunk. She hesitated before asking, I didn't do anything to you last night, did I? Mian, caught off guard and choked. No, he said with a cooperative smile, though his eyes sparkled with amusement. Noticing his slight cough, Faye leaned forward with concern. Are you choking? Are you okay, Mian? I'm fine, he replied, still smiling.